Hello there and welcome back to the magical and mystical.
And wonderful.
Yes, and wonderful adventures of Gordon. Polly. Episode 8. Alfonze the Great. So weary Polly and Cookie had reached Alfonze's house and stood outside the large metal gates. After Lucy, the golden retriever, barking her brains out at Polly and Cookie, the door of the house opened and 2 more dogs, border collies, ran out, rushing to the gates. Then a hulking man stepped into the doorway of the house. The light from inside the house was eclipsed by the fittest 75-year-old specimen you had ever seen. Now, Alfonze, if you remember, we mentioned him in one of the other episodes. He's Iam's father and a championship boxer who had trained all his life. He had the plumpest muscles and his arms were so veiny you could have made a map out of them. People often thought he was about 20 to 30 years younger than he really was. Now I can say this from personal experience. He loves to tell everyone his age and watch their jaws drop to the ground in disbelief. Alfonze jogged to the gate with the energy of a 20-year-old when he saw Polly and Cookie. He opened the creaky, rusty gates for Polly and Cookie and welcomed them in. Of course, the first thing he did was to scoop little Cookie up in his left arm and Polly in his right. He loved giving them a bear hug, but often forgot his own strength as he squeezed the air out of their lungs.
Come on now, then let's have a smoothie.
Without letting little Polly even speak a single word, he took them inside and threw them onto the couch and went to the kitchen, whipping up a super-duper shake for the weary, wandering adventurers. Polly thought she would sit and have a break. As she was about to relax into the seat, the dogs gathered around and jumped onto the couch, and, as expected, they wanted cuddles, ear scratches, and to give kisses. Alfonze walked in and gave Polly a super shake. Not actually shook her, but he gave her the healthy protein drink, the shake thing. You know what I mean. Oh. Gulping down the tasty, healthy protein shake treat, Polly felt a little recovered, and just as she began to relax, she saw the Schwebbie orb flash across the window and so dove behind the couch. Alfonze was quite puzzled at Polly's behaviour.
What's up, love?
The orb flashed across the window again, and this time Alfonze noticed it, and his eyebrows crinkled up and stood on end. It was kind of like his special ability, you know, like spidey sense. Anyway,
what's that blooming thing?
It's after me and I think it's captured all the family and your Iam as well.
Alfonze didn't mess about. He crossed over the living room with an air of confidence and reached a wall that had a framed pair of boxing gloves hanging up in a cabinet, and he opened it and took out the gloves. He calmly placed the gloves onto his hands and walked to the door.
No, it will hurt you.
Alfonze simply smiled at little Polly and pulled the laces on the gloves tight with his teeth. He opened the door and hid behind it, and the orb shot into the house at lightning-like speed, but Alfonze was a highly attuned athlete and leapt out, jabbed it twice, which seemed to disrupt its flight pattern, and then followed it by a right hook, which sent the orb flying through a wall. Alfonze simply smiled and walked over to little Polly.
Come on then now, lass. Come on, it's all right to come out and tell me what's going on. It's crazy, all this.
They went over to the couch, and Polly sat down, and just as Alfonze was about to take off the gloves and sit down himself, the orb flew back through the wall, hurtling at Alfonze. He was always ready for sneak attacks and bobbed and weaved his head to one side, dodging the orb and uppercutting it into the ceiling.
It was lodged in and flashing red, trying to free itself. Then it stopped, and a beam of light projected out of it, and Schwebbie was there in holographic form. His demonic eyes peered over at Polly, and just as he was about to speak, Alfonze jumped, grabbed the orb, and gave it the final blow by smashing it against the wall. The fight was over. Alfonze had won. After the battle had concluded, Alfonze got a dustpan and brush and began to clean up the orb and put it in the bin. The group went to the living room and sat down as Polly filled Alfonze in about their magical and mystical and wonderful adventures with Nannans' quilt. Alfonze couldn't believe what he had just heard and didn't speak for quite a while. So Alfonze did the same thing as what little Polly had done with the fisherman's phone. He picked up his mobile and tried to ring his son Ian, and then Weezer, and... Nothing at all. Nobody answered their phone. Polly watched in great anticipation, praying that one of the guys would answer, but they didn't. There was another silence of despair. They both didn't know what to say. They were utterly perplexed. They didn't even know where to start. Alfonze shot to his feet and took a power stance. "Well, we won't get anything done sitting around here, will we, eh? We have to go and inspect that prison place where you came from. You can take us there, can't you? Okay. Can you remember the way, kid?" Alfonze crossed over to a closet door and opened it and grabbed a necklace off of a hook on the back of the door. Polly wondered what on earth was a necklace going to do. Then she realized what it was for. The necklace had a silent dog whistle attached to the end of it, and to which Alfonze put to his lips and whistled. Silently, of course. The golden retriever didn't move an inch, but the two border collies sprang into action and went to either side of Alfonze. "Let's go and investigate, then." What a duo! Little Polly and the fittest 75-year-old you have ever seen, and two border collies and Cookie. Oh, what a team! Now it was all on little Polly's shoulders to retrace her steps so they could find the prison cubes. All she had to do was to follow her all too familiar steps from before and recognize the landmarks and just basically retrace her steps. Pretty simple, really. Or was it? Yes, it actually was. On with the story. The sun shone bright through the clouds, and Alfonze pulled a pair of sunglasses out of his pocket and gave them to Polly. He was a gentle giant after all, and always did what he could when he could to lift the life of others around him. Polly simply smiled, and I must say she did look like one cool dude. Polly took the lead with little Cookie by her side, and Alfonze followed. She retraced her steps with the utmost accuracy. Finally, they reached the lake where Polly had run into the old fisherman. Looking over to the other side of the lake, the group spotted something thrashing about in the water. Darting over to investigate, the gang saw the fisherman in the water trying to get free. Alfonze placed the silent dog whistle to his lips and blew on it. It gave a short silence. Yes, it's a silent whistle after all, and the two border collies sprang into action. "Retrieve!" They shot into the water and swam to the fisherman, who grabbed their collars, and they dragged him to the bank of the lake. The old man was absolutely drenched and scrambled out and smiled, nodding in thanks at Alfonze. Polly and the gang knew they were on the right path and turned to continue their journey. And so they trekked on, and finally the weird prison cube things started to come into view. "Now then, let's not get too close. We don't want to be spotted. Let's hide in these bushes and have a think." They both sat, resting and thinking. It wasn't a pretty sight. It looked like they both needed to break wind and fart. Anyway, a light bulb appeared above Alfonze's head. He had an idea. Right, we need a distraction, and I've got a great idea. We need to draw those flying things away so we can get close and have a look at them cubes. Alphonse blew the silent dog whistle again, and it made the silent noise again that we can't hear, but the two border collies did. And he said, "Go!" The two glorious pups shot off through the centre of the cubes and drew the attention of the orb, which shot off after them. Right, love, let's see if we can't rescue the gang. Come on. Polly, Cookie, and Alphonse shot to the cubes and looked through the windows of each. And yes, I can't believe what I'm reading. They saw Gordon! Oh, yes, Gordon's alive! I wish I had Brian Blessed to say that, but Gordon's alive! Oh, yes, and we Sir William and Mildred as well. Anyway, they wasted no time. The pair began banging on the window, and it didn't budge, but Gordon's head inside did. His sight shot to the window. I bet you can't tell that I'm a little bit excited that our Gordy the Godster the Godmeister is there. Oh, he's nearly back. Yes, rescue time. Calm, breathe, and back to the story. From inside, Gordon shot to the window and began inspecting it, and then he tried to open it, but there was no success. It was nailed shut. Then, all of a sudden, from behind him, the robot Mildred grabbed him and dragged him away. Oh, no, we've got to get Gordon. Come on, guys, you can do it. Then Alphonse's eyebrows crinkled as he heard a dog bark, and he realized their time was up. The collies were on their way back. Come on, love, we're out of time. Run for cover. So the pair ran for cover as the collies reappeared, but the orb wasn't there. Hiding in the bushes again, the group caught their breath. Right, I'm gonna call our Jedi and her husband, Willington Piccolo. Now, just to fill you in, Jedi was Alfonze's daughter, which means she was Iam's sister, and her husband was her husband. Yes, that's pretty self-explanatory, really. Anyway, the phone rang, and as Jedi answered, Alphonse smiled. "Hello, love!" "Hey up, love, are you all right? Anyway, listen, I need a favour. Can you and Willington bring a pickaxe or a crowbar or summit so we can break into something? We're near that lake just off of the town, you know, near Gordon's house. You know the one which I mean, don't you, love?" "Yes, Dad." With that, the phone hung up. Just as Alphonse placed the phone into his pocket, the orb appeared above them. It had tracked the signal on Alphonse's phone and located the gang. Hovering above their heads, the orb projected the king's translator.
You have walked into our trap and must now surrender or be vaporized to a crisp. It's simple, there's nothing more to it. You will be escorted to a cube to be studied, and then for your knowledge to be absorbed, to be given to the king.
Alphonse slowly took the silent dog whistle off of his neck and raised his arms into the air as if to surrender and dropped it, to which Polly picked it up, and then Alphonse whispered, "Run, love." Little Polly didn't need to think. She shot off, heading back for the lake. The orb changed red, but needed to choose who to take, so it chose Alphonse and flew, hitting him in the stomach. Now, your average human would have probably been winded and sent to their knees, but Alphonse maintained a slab of solid muscle over his stomach, and the orb bounced off. He needed to give little Polly time to escape, so he played along, and the orb hit him again, so he pretended to be winded and went to his knees, faking pain. Ow! That really hurt. Oh. Meanwhile, little Polly was running fast with the 3 dogs behind her. She was starting to slow down now, and one of the collies had sensed this, so while running, the collie lowered her head and scooped little Polly up into the air and placed her on her back. This gave them a temporary boost in speed until they reached the lake and decided to take a break. A little rhyme. Just as they got there, Polly dismounted the collie and the dogs went for a drink, as they were pretty fatigued, but given 15 minutes they would be up and raring to go again. Polly slumped next to a tree, welling up with tears in her eyes. She didn't know where to turn or what to do. Then she heard a noise and shot to her feet to run in anticipation of the orb coming back. But instead a familiar car pulled up at the side of the lake. It was Jedi and her husband Willington Piccolo. Jedi got out of the passenger side of the car because she liked to be chauffeured around by Willington. Oh, Jedi. Hello, love. Are you okay, love?
No, I'm not. I need help.
No, Lou. Jedi had a funny way of communicating. She tried to keep things light-hearted all the time and loved to laugh. Then Willington got out of the car and went to the boot, taking out multiple tools that Alfonze said to bring. The pair waltzed over to little Polly and the pups. Where is Dad, Lou?
He's been captured. It's no good me telling you everything, and there's no time.
Calm down, Lou. Willington opened his mouth and was about to speak through his bushy beard when Jedi put a finger up and he went silent. Now then, Lou, take us to where Dad is, Lou, and give me his whistle, okay, Lou? Polly nodded and wiped the tears from her eyes. The troop walked to the perimeter of where the prison cubes were and couldn't believe what their eyes were witnessing. It was Alfonze. He was jogging around the cubes with the orb in hot pursuit. Lasers were shooting out at him, but he was too quick and dodged them. Oh, Alfonze, what a guy. He ran around each of the cubes and was making the orb look quite stupid. Jedi put her hands over her mouth and couldn't believe what she was seeing. She was chuckling at her father, Alfonze. Through her laughter, Alfonze jumped onto one of the cubes and stood facing the orb. Wow, what a guy. The orb proceeded to shoot at Alfonze, and he dodged it with millimeters to spare. Now, I say millimeters, I mean if Alfonze had any hair, he would have probably had it singed off, so it's a good job he was bold. Anyway, Jedi turned to Willington and held out her hand. Scalpel, Lou? Willington smiled through his big bushy beard and handed Jedi a pickaxe as he held a sledgehammer in the other hand. Something's gonna go down. They passed little Polly a small hatchet, just in case. Hello, Lou! Jedi shouted at Alfonze, which immediately caught the attention of the orb, and so it flew over in Jedi and Willington's direction. Without a moment to lose, Jedi told Polly to stand still as she and Willington hid behind 2 trees, leaving little Polly exposed in the middle. The orb shot to Polly and started flashing red. Prisoner 91 located. Just as it was finishing its sentence, Jedi and Willington gave their weapons a huge swing, crashing it into the face of the orb. They practically atomized it. They had used little Polly as the bait and managed to take out the orb. Fantastic work, you guys. I'm impressed. Well, that's the end of that, Lou. The gang walked over to meet Alfonze. Hey up, my loves. Now then, we can break these guys out of these cube things.
They took to Gordon's cube first and began hacking away with all their might at the digital prisons. They made a hole, and the robot Mildred's head shot out. There was no time wasted. Willington chopped it clean off without hesitation. Well done, Willington Piccolo. Then Gordon was free at last, my Gordy. He's free, our little dude. Oh, huzzah, huzzah, Gordon is free. I'm only excited a tiny little bit, can't you tell? Oh, Gordy! Ah, yes, now I can say welcome back to the magical and mystical.
And wonderful.
Yes, and wonderful adventures of Gordon! Oh, sorry, I need to breathe. A little bit of meditation. Calm, and proceed with the story. Without another word, they moved on to the next cube, and the next, until they had their family free. Ha-ha! Sorry, I will calm down a little. So, doing a head count, they had freed Ian, Weezer, Mildred, and our little Gordy, but there was one cube left. Approaching with curiosity, the group peered in through the window and couldn't believe their eyes. If you want the story to continue, please like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Have a fantastic day, you absolutely wonderful, awesome, epic, beautiful people.